Hi class, this chapter looks at how you put together your introduction and your conclusion of your speech. Let's look at the overview. Your speech. The overview of the PowerPoint includes what should your introduction do, what are some effective attention getters, how do you organize your introduction, how should you conclude, how can you use the wow statement, and how do you organize your conclusion. Okay, so again, remember we start with our body and then we go back to our introduction. And there's 4 elements of your introduction. The first is capturing your audience's attention, your attention getter. The first thing that comes out of your mouth should be an attention getter. One very clever attention getter a student delivered in my class, maybe 10 years ago. He was doing a speech about the Heimlich maneuver. And he got up in front of the class and he started to speak and he started to cough. And he asked a fellow student, for a cough drop to put in his mouth. So he put the cough drop in his mouth. He continued to speak, and within seconds, he started to choke on the cough drop. Well, someone from the back row of the class came up, started performing the Heimlich maneuver on this gentleman who was speaking. The cough drop flew out of his mouth, and he said, "Now that I have your attention, I am going to teach you, tell you, speak to you about the 5 steps involved in performing the Heimlich maneuver." Okay, clever attention getter. And then he went on with the rest of his introduction. So think about how you plan to gain the attention of your audience. You want to build your credibility early. I tell students that you need to tell us, why should we listen to you speak about this topic? Where is your credibility? Is it based on your experience? Is it based on research? Whichever it is, tell us, I've done this, I've been there, this is my credentials. Or it's based on this credible book, credible work site, the research that I completed. Or even both sometimes. That works out very well. Demonstrate audience relevance, okay, and this is the 3rd part of your introduction. You'll see the series of information that you need to deliver in your introduction. But audience relevance is what we're saying here, is that you need to tell us what you are talking about, today I want to persuade you to, today I want to teach you how to perform the Heimlich maneuver. And this will help you, because the next time you're out in a restaurant or you're in class and someone chokes, you will know how to perform the Heimlich maneuver. Okay, so what does the audience have to gain by listening to you? How is it relevant to the audience? Introduce the topic in the preview. Okay, so again, then after the relevance, you tell us, again, you're telling us what you're talking about, and then the preview of points in the main body. So somewhere in that relevance and the topic preview, you're telling us what you're talking about, but then you're telling us the 3 to 5 main points that you will be covering in the body of the speech. Okay, so looking back, we have your attention getter, then you establish your credibility. You tell us the relevance to the audience, okay? At that time, you could tell us what you want us to understand, or what your purpose is, persuasion, and then you tell us the preview of the speech, which is also your central idea or your thesis in your outline. What are some effective attention getters? Okay, we know there's millions of books and websites, credible ones, that you can get information to put that spin for that attention getter. Facts and statistical information that really make a point. Quotations written by someone else. Obviously, you always accredit that person. Stories, narrative, illustrations, anecdotes, hypothetical situations. Anything that gains the audience's attention. We love stories. Since we were 2 years old, I never heard someone say, "Please don't tell me another story." You want to hear stories. It's a great way to bring in your audience to listen to your presentation. Humor, okay. Humor is great in your introduction because it helps to relieve those jitters a little bit, perhaps in the beginning if you feel you need to relax. If everybody laughs, we relax. But then students say, well, you know, Ms. Hill, what happens if they don't laugh? Well, they don't laugh, they didn't miss anything. They didn't know that that was a joke or it was supposed to be humorous. You just move on. You just move on. It's not a big deal. So, you know, try it out on somebody. Be creative. Think about different ways to bring in humor. You could ask rhetorical questions, okay? You could ask for response-evoking questions. In other words, how many people here have a difficulty parking at the hack parking lot? And, you know, everybody raises their hand, or some people raise their hand. It gives you the opportunity to breathe if you're feeling a little anxious. And then also it brings the audience in by kind of physically moving in your introduction. How do you organize your introduction? And I went through this just previously. Your attention getter, your credibility, the relevance to the audience, and the preview of speech. And here somewhere you need to tell us what you want us to understand or what your speech is about, but your preview includes all the points of your body. What should your conclusion do? Okay, now it's important that you need to signal the ending, okay? You need to give that transitional phrase, in conclusion. You may change the volume of your voice. You may physically move. If you decide not to stay right behind the podium, a good transitional movement helps the audience understand that you're moving to another section of the structure of your speech. So it's up to you, but most of the time students say, now to sum this up or in conclusion, we need that verbal signal. You need to summarize those main points again, okay, to help us remember. Remember, we're only listening about 25% is the average of an audience of the percentage of folks out there who are listening. So it's good to repeat. You need to repeat. That's the structure of speech giving. So you want to summarize those main points. Elicit a response, especially if it's a persuasive speech. So summarize those points and then tell your audience what you want them to do, okay? Whether it's to vote, whether it's to donate, whether it's to believe in your persuasive speech, you know, give them instructions on how to do it. Sometimes I tell students to bring in a vehicle. In other words, not your Maserati that you have in the parking lot. But let's say you want your speech is about donating organs. Bring in brochures, hand them out at the end, and ask people to sign up, or give them that easy way to respond and for you to elicit that response. Make your speech memorable and include that wow moment at the end. So what can you use as a wow statement? Now, you know, many times we use quotes, sometimes to use quotes at the very end, okay? So, you know, you've had your summary, you elicit or you kind of gave the students the benefit, or your audience the benefit of the speech. So for instance, it's a demonstration speech. It's about building the birdhouse. You could tell the student, your audience, that, you know, the next time, you know, when you want to view birds and you can build this birdhouse, it'll make a nice addition to your backyard. And then you want to have some type of wow statement. And you may be the envy of all your neighbors in the neighborhood. Or it might be a quote, as you see here. Or it might be a type of story or some kind of a humorous pun at the end. But it needs to be very, very short. Something to wow them. The humor is the same rules in your as in your introduction. Rhetorical question, you could end with a rhetorical question. So wouldn't you want to have a nice paradise for the bird population in your backyard? Thank you. So that's how you would end with a rhetorical question, okay? You could challenge the audience. Again, this is very prominent in a persuasive speech, asking them to do whatever you want them to do, to act in a certain way. But a really great technique, as you see here, is going back to your introduction, referencing back to that attention getter. It brings your speech to a full circle. So, I don't know, I'm thinking off the top of my head right now. Let's think about the guy who did the speech about the Heimlich maneuver. And he started out with choking on the cough drop. So what would a wow statement be at the end of his speech? Perhaps after he summarizes, tells us the benefits, I don't know, maybe he would hold up a bag of cough drops and reference the cough drop and say, now when I put a cough drop in my mouth, or when you or your friends put a cough drop in their mouth, everyone in this class will know how to perform the Heimlich maneuver. Or something that goes back to the introduction, the reference to the introduction, or he may even say, thank you, I'm thankful that someone knew the Heimlich. Now, I do want to say that was all a setup as far as his introduction was concerned. He set up with the students beforehand to give him the cough drop to perform the Heimlich. It was all a show, and I knew it was a show because I'm looking at his outline as he's speaking. So a great spin on how to start a speech. But think about that as a technique to reference back to the start of your speech. How do you organize your conclusion? Again, as I mentioned, it's very short in time. An 8-minute speech, 30 seconds to a minute, 5% of your speech. You have a summary statement, you have the response statement, okay, if you want them to respond, or you can, in a sense, tell them how they could use the information, and then your wow statement. Okay, that concludes our chapter on introductions and conclusions. There's a lot of great videos for you to view in your My Com Labs Plus Pearson link. I highly recommend that you view those videos. You can analyze the speeches, listen for their elements of their introduction and their bodies and their conclusions, and that will help you then too on your speech crafting. Thank you.